thank you all for joining today. Many thanks to Peter Møller for accepting our invitation to join our USKRG call here and really provide us some updates on all the activities and outcomes of the various actions that are taking place in Korea. So I know Peter can do a much better job than me introducing himself, so I will pass the word to Peter. And maybe just first of all, I will say, as we wrote in the invite for this call, we will not discuss personal cases here. One, because we're recording, but otherwise also because it's going to take a lot of time to discuss individual cases. But with that, I will hand it over to Peter.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. My name is Peter. I'm from Denmark. I'm a Danish adoptee. I live in Korea. I've lived in Korea for 2 years now. I live just outside Seoul. It's sunny and extremely cold right now, so winter has started here. I was the founder of the Danish Korean Rights Group, and together with 3 other adoptees, we submitted in 2022, after researching adoption cases, we submitted a case to the South Korean Truth and Reconciliation Commission, asking them to investigate adoptions from South Korea. The Truth Commission is a governmental commission set down by the Korean National Assembly and by the Korean government. So it is a governmental body. It's independent, and there are a lot of good people working there, helping, working for adoptees at the moment. I've prepared something here. I don't know if it goes through. See here, just a minute. See here. So this is what we're going to talk about today. It's the TSC case. It was filed August 22, and we delivered cases to the commission in August, September, October, and December. And December 6th, 2022, the Korean government and the Truth Commission, they decided to establish an independent commission. It is called Human Rights Violations and Adoption from South Korea. Then I'm going to talk about the ACSC case in Korea, filed May 15th this year. ACSC is the Anti-Corruption Commission in Korea. Then some of you have probably heard about the NCSC scandal. The NCSC is the adoption authority in Korea. And this NCSC scandal was discovered in July 2024. That led to a police report. We reported NCSC to the police, even though it's a governmental body. We reported the NCSC to the police for corruption and for a lot of things in connection with adoption information. We did that on August 30th this year. Then in October, we had a national audit. We were invited into Korean Parliament to address the Parliament and tell about the problems for adoptees from Korea. And then I'm going to end this session here with talking about background search in Korea. Danish Korean Rights Group, we were founded in 2022. We actually work on 3 levels. We work in Korea, and we have a group working in Denmark, And then we have an international group where we work together with our friends in NKRG, our sister organizations, NKRG, NLKRG from Netherlands, USKRG, they are American and Australian adoptees from Eastern, the adoption agency Eastern. Then we work, of course, together with CoRoot and CAFE, that is the Belgian organization. SCAN is the Swedish organization. USKRG, that's you. We also work together with the United Nations, several bodies, human rights bodies in United Nations. I will tell more about that also. Status on the TSC case. We submitted 367 cases. Actually, we submitted more cases than that, but some adoptees, they didn't reply on the letters and emails from the Commission. So 367 cases are right now being investigated in South Korea. Our case consists of two levels. We have the individual cases, and then we have the overall case. It is an investigation into the systemic issues related to adoption. So we are looking at adoption agencies in both receiving countries and South Korea. And we're looking at the role of the Korean state and some of the receiving states also. All individual cases, they are handled separately by TSC because it's private information. So we don't even ask about the individual cases because the adoptees, they have the right for privacy when it comes to their individual case. So we only go into individual cases if we can see that there are problems or there are new information. Can give an example. There was an adoptee that was rejected by the TSC, saying that he was not born in, he was not a Korean adoptee, and turned out that his biological mother was a forced labor sent out to Germany and born in Germany and was taken back to Korea and was adopted from Korea. So we said to the Commission, gave evidence that the child was actually born by a Korean woman and adopted from the territory of South Korea, and he was brought in again. This is where we go into individual cases. Most of our time is used on the systemic issues about adoption, and we have altogether, right now we're doing a lot of research, and we have submitted around 46,000 pages of documents and evidence in the case of the systemic issues related to adoption. This summer, August, September, there should have been a partial report from the TSC, and then it was postponed to September, October, and then again postponed. The report here is not coming this year. We're a little bit disappointed, but that is the reality, that there will be no partial report before this year. And I can't say when there will be a partial report. The final report is going to be released in May 2025, but we have expected that there would be a partial report. We were told by the Commission actually that there would be a partial report about the first 100 cases and some conclusions about the role of the Korean government. But again, that has been postponed, and I've got so many dates from the Commission that I will not give yet another date that will turn out to be cancelled. So we've just decided to sit down and wait. If there will be a partial report, it there will be a partial report. There will definitely be the final report in May 2025. The situation in Korea right now is that there's a lot of political concern about the TSC report. Until now, it doesn't look good. The content of the report doesn't look good. And there's the concern among politicians, and especially in the government, that the conclusions of the TSC report will result in a wave of lawsuits against the Korean government. We have done a little bit of calculation. What we're talking about, we took the average what do you call it, compensation given by Supreme Court in Korea in cases, similar cases, in connection with adoption, and that's a lot of money. We did a little bit of calculation. It is 5 times the national budget for the military in Denmark, just to give an example on where we are right now. It is half of the health expenses in Denmark. So there's a concern that that the TSC report will end in a huge problem, financial problem for Korea. And a lot of adoptees are acting very aggressively towards the politicians and the government. So they are a little bit afraid that this will just spin out of control. We have said to the politicians that we didn't do this for money. We didn't do this that anyone was speculating in getting rich. We did this because we want the right to have a full insight into our background information in Korea. But the political concern, that's why we don't get the partial report that we were told that would come before Christmas. The TSC, they have also recommended us not to file any lawsuits before the final report. One of the conclusions also until now is that the TSC, they have found biological families in 10% of the TSC cases. We are a little bit surprised that they have not found more biological families, but this is because of the double records that the adoption agency hold about us. So we exist in 2 different versions. We also, one of the conclusions until now is also that hold documents are not always located in Korea. Many adoptees, especially adoptees adopted in 1970s, these documents are not in Korea. They are actually in hold international. There were, until 1977, there was only one hold company. It was called Hold International Children's Services Incorporated. After 1977, Hold was divided in 2 companies, Hold International and Hold Children's Services. But the adoptions until 1977 were performed by this single company, and that means that a lot of the documents, they are actually still in Hold International. So if you are adopted in the 1970s, I will recommend you to ask Hold International instead of asking Hold Korea, because Hold Korea, they actually just ask Hold International to get the documents. So so they are right now asking Hold International to release the documents about adoptees, so they can investigate the individual cases from American citizens. And they are right now also performing witness preparing witness testimonies. They are interviewing victims biological families, adoptive families. They're also interviewing people from adoption agencies, people responsible for adoptions, and I think from adoption industry alone, more than 25 people have been called in to be interviewed by the Commission. So this is what's going on right now and what we know until now. I have also need to go back a little bit to my own country, Denmark. There was a Danish report that came out in January 2024. This is the first country in the North European country that to release a report about adoptions from South Korea. France and Switzerland, they have also released reports about adoptions from Korea, and they actually come to the same conclusion. Massive fraud, a lot of money changing hands, and so on. So I will not go into this report, just telling that there is in Korea there is a huge they're very, very annoyed about the Danish report, because the Danish report actually say that Korea is to blame for everything that happened. And the Korean government and the Korean authorities, they don't agree on this. In Denmark right now, there is a huge fight between adoptees and adoption authorities. They try to wash their hands, saying that we don't have any responsibility for this. Everything happened in Korea. Some of the evidence we've brought forward actually shows that the receiving countries and a country like Denmark actually played a big role. They actually asked and pressured Korea to send children. So our conclusion is actually that there's a 50% responsibility for, you can say the overall responsibility is divided in two. Korea, of course, has a responsibility, but the receiving country has equal responsibility for the unethical and problematic adoptions. So I mentioned this because we can see how the Korean government react on criticism from authorities. So we're again touching a little bit the problem with the TSC report, that people are frightened in Korea, politicians are afraid that the conclusions from receiving countries and from Korea, that it will cause problems inside Korea. The TSC case, I would say to adoptees who have submitted their case to the TSC, this is definitely the last deadline. I would say until the end of the year is the last deadline to submit any new information, anything that could help the investigators. Because in the new year, they're going to write the final report. So everything would be all time would be used, all resources will be used for investigating the systemic part of adoption and writing the report. The TSC does not conduct family searches. They have found in 10% of the cases, they have found a biological family. They look for the biological family to interview them, to hear if they gave the child away by free will. If they didn't do that, that would be a human rights violation. So that's why they contact the birth families. A lot of adoptees have been writing me and other organizations, sister organizations, about communicating with the TSC. The TSC is not a public office where you can have partial conclusions from your case, where you can discuss your family search and so on. The TSC is a public authority, and they are only performing the task and investigating individual cases and the systemic issues in connection with adoption. They don't do, individual services. So that's in a kind way I try to say, don't write them about all kinds of things, because you will not get an answer. Until now, just based on what the Commission gets from adoptees with questions, they could easily only put people to answer emails, so there would be no time for investigation. So that's the choice they have made. So this is not an information office. It is an investigation body. So I hope you will respect that. Also, don't expect them to. A lot of adoptees ask for status and updates from them. There will be a status, one status, and that will be the final report coming out May 2025. And everybody would get answers in May 2025. If you have information for the investigation, please don't hesitate writing them with new information or new evidence. But having a ping pong in your background information search, that is not possible. Now I'll turn to the NCSC scandal. NCSC is the official adoption authority. It is in Korea is going to be a part of the Hague Convention soon. So NCSC is similar to the central authority mentioned in the Hague Convention. They had in 2013 they started a project to collect all original documents from child institutions in Korea, from adoptees' background information, documents from more than 400 institutions. The Korean state funded this with a special funding from 2013 to 2022. The purpose was to secure and digitize all adoptees' documents so they are kept safe for the future, and it should make it possible for us adoptees to actually ask for these information and and background information. And then it should be uploaded to the Korean national database, so any public office could use the information. So when adoptees come to, when they visit Korea, the idea was that then they could actually access the information. In reality, it turned out that they only collected documents from 5 out of 400 institutions. And they did some additional sporadic scannings around in some institutions. Not them all, it's actually quite sporadic what they've done. It also turns out that 59% of all scanned documents are blank pages or duplicates. Documents were not collected, and these sporadic scannings, they were conducted, just randomly. And through the last 10 years, and that means that there many of the institutions they've closed down. And it's not possible then to get hold of the original documents, because some of the institutions, they don't exist anymore. And that means that background information about adoptees have been lost forever. It also concludes that the scanning quality is extremely poor. In some cases, you are not able to see pictures clearly. You can't read documents. There is no sorting of the documents. So imagine that everything is just, scanned and documents are just piled up, physical documents piled up. There's been no sorting. So it's not just one big pile of documents. The documents have not been uploaded to the governmental database at all, but they are actually stored on physical hard drives and USB sticks. And funds, we're talking millions of US dollar, have been used during the last 10 years. The money has disappeared, but the task has not been completed. We are going to dive into the problematic handling of the material that they did collect. We have evidence that NCSC changed the names of biological families. That could be one biological mother named Lee. The last name was changed to Kim. That's just an example. So they changed the names of the biological families. They call this a typo error. A typo error, in my understanding, is if you you hit the wrong button on the keyboard. You forgot to make space between the words and so on. To change the names, this example here is Lee to Kim, and if some of you probably know Korean, but Lee, E, and Kim in the Korean alphabet, there's no way you can write Kim instead of Lee. Lee in Korean, it's 2 words, Kim 3 words, total different letters. So this is part of the scandal. Other part of the scandal, it turns out that the adoptees, we have ID numbers. It is similar to the Social Security number in the United States. So one identifying number, all Korean citizens since 1968, they have had an ID number. So one unique number per person. So you can identify a person by the ID number. NCSC, it turns out that all adoptees, we actually have ID numbers, but NCSC during the last 10 years, they have actually changed the ID numbers, falsified the ID numbers, and they call that a typo also. We, of course, when human beings are working with, this kind of things, so as long as there's this human element, mistakes, things can happen, of course, we're all humans, but the amount of mistakes, the amount of so-called typos, it is so big. So we actually doubt that we're talking about, typo. It's definitely not a typo error, because everything is spelled correctly. It's just changed. And again, with the ID numbers, it was a big surprise for us, but also changing both the names of the biological families and our ID number. That makes it almost impossible through these documents they have collected to identify biological families. Also, other problems, the source material and meta files are not complete, are a complete mess. There's no, they're not made in catalogs. They're not even put in page numbers. So it's impossible to see, did they get all the material, because they didn't get the originals. They have only originals from 5 institutions. Also, we find out that the physical hard drives and the USB sticks, some of them have been lost. And that means, again, irreplaceable information, they have been lost forever. So there are adoptees through the collection, they have lost their documents because of the missing collection of original documents, and the information that was collected. Some adoptees, they have missed their information, background information is gone forever. We have been researching this a lot, and we actually have found that because this is a special funding from Korean government, so every year there was made a report. So it's been it's like, what do you call it? It's like a project, independent company looking in, was the money used the right way? Did they do what they were told to do? For 10 years, the reports, every year for 10 years, there was a report actually concluding that names were changed, ID numbers were changed, all the problems were mentioned in each report for 10 years. But nothing happened. Nothing changed anything, nothing happened. That's a big, huge problem. And again, they did this with our institution documents. That means the documents before we came to the adoption agency. In 2025, they're going to collect all information from the adoption agencies. So we are afraid that they're going to treat the incoming documents in 2025 the same way they treated our documents from institutions. So we have actually reported NCSC to the police on August 30th. We have reported 6 specific people in charge of this project to the police. One of the things we're reporting, that is corruption, because we can see that the money, the millions of dollars, they have disappeared. How can that be? We can also see all the blank pages scanned. That was to buff up the numbers of scannings, to show that they made more. They made more to prove that they made the correct number of scans. Then they buffed up the number. So again, 59%. That's just blank papers, and then we have also looked into some of the documents. We can see that to buff up the number, then they take one adoptee's file documents, and then they make duplicates. So let's just give an example. 5 adoptees, they have share the same document. And so that also means that if you contact NCSC, there is a possibility that you get another adoptee's information. If I search for Peter in this system, I could get Catherine's information. That's the problem we have right now. This case was discovered by one of our team, people on the team. Her name is Bunyang Han. She found out something was wrong. So she started investigating this, researching this. And in August and September, USKRG and our international sister organizations, we made demonstrations in front of the NCSC headquarters in Seoul. A lot of media came, and there was a lot of media coverage, and that woke up the politicians. So there was suddenly a lot of political tension from the Korean parliament. And we went to several meetings with members of parliament, and they have actually asked to have documents from NCSC. So they had a lot of information we didn't know about. And then they asked us, how are adoptees treated in Korea? Then we referred to the ACSC, the anti-corruption case. So we told about that they get wrong information. that they don't have the right to see that information. Some of the very ill adoptees in need of medical treatment, they're refused access to birth family information, and some of them have actually died. We know about 5 adoptees who have died because they didn't get treatment, because it was impossible to find the biological family. So we talk all about how to hold is and adoption agencies are working together with NCSC. We told about how corrupt NCSC is. We told them about the violations of Korean law. They don't follow Korean law at all in NCSC. And the politicians said to us, this is actually, the NCSC scandal is bad, but what you are telling us is actually much worse. So they wanted to have information about that. So in October, Punyang, who found out about this case, this scandal, she went to National Assembly in Korea and addressed the parliament in a speech. And there've been done a lot of research. We thought this was just going to be 1 hour, but the questions from members of parliament stretched over 12 hours. So the president of NCSC, he was sitting in an extremely warm chair for 12 hours, and he was bombarded with questions about the scandal and how adoptees were treated. The Ministry of Health and Welfare, they were also attending. NCSC is an organization under the Ministry of Health and Welfare. It's a department under the Ministry of Health and Welfare. I can tell you how bad this is. During this 12-hour session in Parliament, they actually brought forward a tape recording, a discussion between 2 employees, one from NCSC and one from the ministry. And this telephone conversation was played out in the Parliament room. And it is a high-ranking employee from the ministry threatening an NCSC official to keep his mouth shut about all the problems with adoptees' documents, how they messed up everything and how they mess up everything. And this was, so the ministry representative, he was asked to stand up. And that was actually the person who made the threat who was threatening on the recording. And the ministry and NCSC, they were told to make a report to the parliament, and they were given the month of November to write a report. And they were told by the parliament, if your report is not satisfying, because during the 12-hour session, all the public officials, they were lying. So they were given to the end of November to come up with the report. If the report was not satisfying, then they would send the case to the Parliament Audit and Inspection Board. That is the investigating unit under the ministry. They have almost same, they almost work the same way as the police. They are allowed to interrogate public officials. They can seize documents. They can do a lot. And again, there's this police report we filed in August. There is an ongoing criminal police investigation in Korea right now, performed by Chungno Police Station in Seoul. And I can tell here that we were about to contact Parliament in the beginning of December to hear if it was possible for us to see the report from Ministry of Health and Welfare and NCSC. But something you have probably heard about it. December 3rd, the president of Korea tried a military coup d'etat in the evening. So right now, Parliament is occupied with other issues than adoption at the moment. There's going to be a impeachment case also in Korea, and a lot of generals and politicians, they have been arrested by police. So it's actually quite serious situation where it seems like President Yoon and his friends from military, they tried to copycat the 1979 military coup d'etat made by Chon Do-wan. So there's a lot of unrest on the political side in Korea. Right now, we actually don't know who runs the country. So this part has been delayed, and we're not going to, contact our contacts in Parliament and ask for and pressure them to give us anything right now, because the situation in Korea is very serious. So yeah. Also between the 3rd and I think last week, the president, while he was under investigation from the Korean police and from the prosecutors in Korea, he appointed a new TSC president. So a new president for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And that's a bit concerning, because she has, when she was appointed, she said that military coups happening in during the Korean history, that was not military coups, that was legal actions to save Korea. And also about the massacres, that could be Jeju and Gwangju massacres, that they were actually not massacres. That was needed to save Korea. So and in many of the cases in the TSC is actually about the military coups and about the massacres. So a lot of the victims of massacres and dictatorships, they were actually demonstrated in front of TSC on the day where she was going to be put into office. And there's actually filed a complaint that her appointment as president of TSC is illegal, because the president didn't have the right to appoint her, because she was under investigation for, I think, treason and an attempt of coup d'etat. So this is just to say this current situation in Korea actually have the situation right now has an effect on us also when it comes to adoption. I'm going to change to the last item here. That's about background searches. USKRG and our Norwegian sister organization, we in May we decided to make the Adoptees Embassy in Korea. We call it this because adoptees here in Korea, we come from all parts of the world. We come with different passports, languages, cultures. But when we come here, we come here as Korean adoptees. None of our embassies actually help us, because they help issuing passports and other things. They don't help adoptees. So we decided to make a place in Korea for adoptees and helping adoptees to search for background information. The idea was to take all the knowledge about the forged documents, all the things that we have researched, all our evidence, and actually use this to help adoptees in their search, in the background search. We since May 2024, we have reunited 1 to 2 adoptees on average every week. So it actually works. What we're doing. Yesterday we reunited. We found 4 biological families for adoptees. And yes, today, this morning, just before I met you, we found the biological mother and talked with the biological mother of a Norwegian adoptees. So the adoptees right now, within the last 2 months, we have reunited 20 adoptees with their biological families. Also know that a lot of biological families, they contact us if they had their child stolen or their child disappeared, then they also contact us. We have found adoptees families from adoptees biological families from Australia and United States, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway so far. A bit about the adoptees. It's not just what we're doing. It's not just, having documents from the adoption agencies. Actually, the adoption agencies and the authorities, they use a lot of energy preventing us from doing what we're doing. I can say per case here, we use between 100 to 200 manpower hours in each case. We don't get any help from authorities or adoption agencies. Actually, more the opposite. We also focus not only about the reunion. We look at it as a whole. So we call it, instead of reunion, we call it relationship building. So when we find the biological families, we prepare the biological families and the adoptees for what to come before the in-person reunion. We teach the Korean families about the culture of the country where the adoptees are living now, that they have lost their language, lost the culture. For a lot of the biological parents, when they in most of the cases we have the children, actually in all the cases we have had so far, the children have been stolen. So the parents, they have this, image of the adoptee as still being a child, and in some situations we have to tell them your son is not a child anymore. He is a 50-year-old man. He has a wife, maybe 3 children. He doesn't speak Korean. So and to the adoptee, we have people preparing them for Korean culture. Also, and provide them with information also about the background information and so on, to make the meeting better. And we also know that most of the reunions in the old system done by adoption agencies and so on, most of these reunions we estimate that 60% of reunions fade out. They lose contact with each other. So we are also focusing on having this relationship building that's before, it's during the reunion, and it's after the reunion. So we have I think 2 years after reunion, we follow both the Korean family and the adoptee to help them. Language barriers, that's actually the least problem. The biggest problem is actually the cultural barriers, cultural differences. And you can't change people but you can have people accept each other's differences. So we have professional people working with both parties before, during, and after the reunion. Also, when it comes to birth family search, many adoptees, they actually make this mistake that they ask to find the biological family. And then they are refused by adoption agencies and others. I think it's important also for adoptees to understand, ask for the background information. Family search is just a tiny corner of the total picture. So ask for background information, ask for specific pieces of information, not only mom and dad. Ask for background information, because they can refuse you based on the law, current law in Korea. They can refuse you any information about birth family, but they can't refuse you background information. Also, post-adoption services versus rights. A lot of adoption companies and they offer post-adoption service. We see nothing that is a service here. It's a right. You have the right to know every piece of information related to yourself. So this is not a service. So we're actually going to widen this area. In NCSC post-adoption service, that is the right to have access to 51 pieces of information. But when you look at it, there are more information than the 51. So if you don't fall within the box, if you have a question outside the box of the 51 pieces of information, then you're denied information. And most of the 51 pieces of information, that's bullshit. You can't use it. And in most cases, you just get a copy of your old adoption documents that you probably have already, and they are documents they are falsified. All documents coming from KSS, all documents coming from Holt, they are falsified. We have this in written confirmation from Holt and from KSS. I can also talk a little bit about the challenges we have doing this. We do this at Adoptees Embassy. We do this in CoRoot. It's a Korean organization working for the rights of adoptees. Organization has existed for 20 years. Right now, our challenge, that is lack of manpower. We have really a lot of cases, and it's time consuming what the research we're doing. I know that there are many people who offer some kind of post-adoption service, birth family search. In CoRoot, we insist that the people working with this field, they have to be professionals, they have to be experts. The goodwill and a good heart, that is fantastic, but you don't do what we do just because you have a good heart. You also need a professional expertise when it comes to this. And we actually get a lot of cases from adoptees who have been into other organizations. So I have to emphasize that professional people, that's so important. Also, talents, resources. We have decided not to receive money from a lot of adoption agents, a lot of adoption organizations. They receive money from adoption agencies like Holt and Eastern and KSS. We say no to this kind of money, because we see this money as blood money. That is money that has been earned by selling Korean children. So we cannot accept this. I know that a lot of adoptee organization networks, they apply for money through the adoption industry, we would not be able to look ourselves in the eyes with the work we are doing. So everything we do, that's based on memberships and donations. So yeah, the latest thing we've done, that is we have made a center in Co-Road called CEDA, Co-Road Center for Enforced Disappearance Agents. We have, in the research we have made, and also in the some of the final reports from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they have made reports about institutions not being actually institutions registered as orphans in our adoption documents, but they are not orphanages as we would understand it. They are more like concentration camps. Actually, the Truth and the TSC, they actually conclude that these institutions were actually work camps, concentration camps, and these kind of institutions, we know them from history, from Nazi Germany. There's no difference between Brothers Home, Heman One, Songnam Academy, and Auschwitz in Germany. Work camps. We have evidence also from TSC. This is not a theory. This is a conclusion from the TSC that children were taken in the streets in the 1980s. They were taken in the 1980s and 1990s, taken in the streets, taken to these work camps. The children that were able to work, they were pressured to do forced labor. That means sweatshops or, crunching stones in road building and so on. The children that were not able to work, they were sent abroad as adoptees. They were sent to the United States, Denmark, and Australia through Holt and Easton. We have also, therefore, we have made this center. All these peoples in the food chain of adoption. That means public officials, institution owners, adoption agencies, child harvesters, also domestic national adoption agencies, everybody in the supply chain of children. We call them EDAs, enforced disappearance agents. And we have set up this center to identify and locate these EDAs, to hold them legal accountable for their enforced disappearances. We have prepared cases now in Denmark and Norway, and we have actually identified and located a number of EDAs. One EDA, a group of EDAs, they fled to Australia. They took the money, so to say, and ran. So they are hiding in Australia right now. And we have identified, I think it's around more than 30 EDAs. And we're going very soon to hold them accountable according to the Enforced Disappearance Convention in United Nations Enforced Disappearance Convention. We have also identified around 30 adoptees from US and Norway so far. And they don't know it yet, but they have been stolen when they were children. In one of the cases, actually in more of the cases, we have stories where that could be one story. A mother in 1983, a mother came walking in the street and was arrested by police. She was taken to this work camp. She was pregnant in the 9th month, and she gave birth in this concentration camp. And the camp guards took away the children of these pregnant women and sent them for adoption, forced adoption. These women, some of these women, all the women, they went ballistic when they took imagine to take away one's child. So they, of course, they were hysterical and very, very angry, and was sent to, and the mothers then, when they were hysterical, they were sent to the mental institution Anzig to cool off. So and when they have cooled off, they sent them back to the concentration camp. We have done a lot of research on this together with the USKRG. A lot of good research together with them. Human one is directly connected to the Vatican Church. That means the Catholic Church. And so that's quite exciting, because that is definitely actually double enforced disappearance. You have the Vatican state running a concentration camp in Korea, and you have the Korean state policemen and other officials making forced adoptions. We have until now 30 cases of these, and that's not and many of them, most of them are from United States, sent by Holt. You don't have the same legal framework in the United States as we have in the rest of the world. A lot of the very central human rights conventions are have not been ratified by the United States. But as Korean adoptees, you are able actually to use the conventions because South Korea, they have actually signed and ratified all the relevant conventions, so you can actually use the adoptee part of you to actually pursue these cases when it comes to that. That was everything. You can read more about birth family search on the co-root.online webpage. That is made for adoptees. And then it's time for Q&A and questions if you have any. And sorry for going far over time.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Peter.
TSC, we don't know them,
Okay.
but I can say from the co-root side,
Yeah.
all adoptions turn out to be either coercion or theft of children. There are no, sorry to say, no real adoptions.
Okay. And you mentioned the ID numbers that were changed or falsified by NCRC. Those are completely separate ID numbers than what the adoption agencies gave us, right? Like our adoption papers, like K83, blah, blah, blah.
The key number is not an ID number. The key number is just a file, something like a file number. But all adoptees, it looks like that all adoptees born after 1968, they have an ID number.
Okay.
And this ID number is actually very adoptees born after, from 1984 and forward, they have actually an ID number in their travel certificate. And it also turns out that this ID number, if you're from Holt, you are 1 or 2 digits, 1 or 2. If it says 0477, you're from Holt. If it says 0374, I think you're from Eastern, and so on. You can see on the code which adoption agency you're from, and then it's a falsified number. The last 8 cases I've had, we have the adoptee actually exist in 2 versions: adoptee version and real Korean version. And in all cases, they are still Korean citizens. So it is the real ID numbers that are changed. Identity, if you do that. A huge focus on Canada right now. I know that some of you are not that you're not Canadians, but actually the Canadian church called United Church of Canada. They changed from Korea to United States. So, and they have actually, you can actually Google this information. They actually apologized, made a public apology that they forced mothers to give away their children. So they have actually officially apologized for forced disappearance, forced adoptions. So that's also what's happening right now in Canada. We actually sent all our research to the Canadian television, CBC, I think it's called, Canadian Broadcasting, company or corporation. We sent it to them. So so I would say in forced disappearances, if you come from Brothers Home, Sangam Academy, Heman One, or any of the other 3 mentioned in the TSC report until now, you are a forced adoption. You were either stolen and taken in the street, stolen, or your mother had the child removed violently. And if you are from any of these organizations, any of these institutions, Supreme Court in Korea last year, or was it this year? I can't remember the time. They've just made a verdict, a final verdict, granting people from former institution children from these institutions compensation. It's a huge compensation. I think it is around $80,000 per year you were incarcerated in this terrible place. And some of the victims, they're actually going to be millionaires on this, and they don't do this for the money. They do this, it's very important for them that they were not to be told they were not the ones who did something wrong. Wrong things were done to them. That is very important for the victims, and that's why they go to court with these cases. When the time comes and our final report comes, we will also look at, are there any cases that we could bring to court also? But we already start now with victims of enforced disappearance, that we are definitely going after the people who did this. After Second World War, a famous Jew, Wiesenthal, he decided that to find the perpetrators of the crimes committed in concentration camps and by the Nazi regime, and to have people prosecuted, investigated and prosecuted, and go to prison. A couple of months ago, a 99-year-old former concentration camp Nazi was arrested and put to prison. So age is not a problem. And we are actually inspired by this work, so we will do the same. This is not for revenge. This is to find the perpetrators of really, really, really the worst kind of crimes you can imagine. They're going to stand trial for this. This is what we've worked with this for a couple of months now, and we're ready to do the first cases on this. So but again, check your documents. If you're from one of the 6 institutions mentioned, you're always welcome to contact us on this. The 25 plus adoptees we have found out, we recently found 25 more. We don't know actually what to do with this. So what we have done so far is to inform the authorities in Norway, and I just had a meeting with the authorities in Norway where we told them that we have names on Norwegian citizens that have been stolen in Korea and who have been they come from these concentration camps, and they just drop their jaws. So they are going to do something about it. We have to take care of the victims of these places. So we think it is a governmental responsibility to contact these adoptees and help them. In Korea, in the United States, no authorities, they have yet reacted on our now many emails. Songam, each of the concentration camps, they have had several units. They ran several units. Let's say, give an example. You have what could it be? Himan and Brothers Home. Each of them, they ran 20 to 25 companies. That could be sweatshops, factories. If you have something saying Songam Hospital, we're willing to look at it. So you're always welcome to send an email, and we will look into Songam Hospital and see if they are connected. Does your document tell anything about the document? Yeah. If there is a link between Songam Academy and Songam Hospital, that we will help you find out about that.